everybody. Welcome to the Dell stage here on the Noman campus. Let me get a round of applause from y'all. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you and Happy New Year. Happy 2024 to everybody here. Thanks for joining me. My name is Jerad Krichevsky. I'm a creature character concept artist. I'm an instructor at Noman here. And first of all, we just want to thank our sponsor, Dell and NVIDIA, for bringing this show to you. This is our 100th Creature Corner episode.
Yes.
Woo! Yeah! Amazing. All right.
Sick.
And, well, for our 100th episode, in case you want to know what Creature Corner is, it's a live stream where Matt and I basically sit and embarrass ourselves for 2 hours.
Yes.
And just do silly things. We basically talk monsters, talk creatures, talk about the industry, talk about making monsters, what it's like to make monsters, and then we just make fools of ourselves for the rest of the two hours on that thing. So we have made it to 100 episodes. That's over 2 years that we've been doing this thing. And when we came up on the 100th episode, we were like, we can't just do another one of these. We got to make it special. So for that, I have called from like the four corners of the creature monsterverse I've collected some of the best creature designers in the industry to talk to you here tonight. And we're going to talk monsters, we're going to talk creatures, we're going to talk what it's like working in the industry. So I hope you're all ready for that. Just a quick shout out, just want to say thank you to Noman School of Visual Effects. Thank you to Alex Alvarez for creating Noman.
Yeah.
That's right. Our home away from home, truly. And let's go ahead and get into it, and let's start introducing everybody. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jerad Krichevsky. I already said that. But I have been working in the industry for 14 years. Crazy, right? And
wow.
I've worked on movies like Megan, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, Godzilla vs. Kong, a little movie that's out now called Night Swim, and a little movie coming up this March 29th called Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah. Very cool, man.
Joining me, of course, is my cohort, my co-host, the man I cannot do the show without. It's Matt Millard. He's all the way from Portland. Matt Millard is a senior look dev and concept artist. He's worked on movies like Venom and Renfield, Ready Player One, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Rampage.
That's right.
Rampaggio.
Rampaggio.
Coming up next is Constantine Sekeris, who has been in the industry for 27 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Incredible. He has worked on movies like Avatar, Way of Water, Black Adam, House of Dragons,
Yes.
Ant-Man, Quantumania, and Avengers Endgame. Give it up for Constantine. And coming up next is Ian Joyner. He's a senior visual development supervisor at Marvel. He's been in the industry over 20 years. He's worked on movies like Avengers Endgame, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Power Rangers, Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, I brought up Power Rangers.
Yeah. Deep cuts.
Give it up for Ian.
Yeah.
And last but not least, his credits are longer than a CVS receipt. He's been in the industry since he was 16. He's a master monster artist. He's worked on movies like Rebel Moon, Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, Avengers Endgame, Dune, and like 1,000 more. It's Jerad Marantz. Give it up for Jerad Marantz.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys all for being here. This is going to be somewhat kind of casual, conversational, but basically, I've got a bunch of questions here, and we're going to start off with my questions. Then, about halfway through, we'll split off and take some audience questions as well, and we'll just we'll vibe and see how it goes. Yeah?
Just gonna hang.
All right, we're gonna hang out and have a good time. Yeah. All right, who's ready to talk some monsters? I think we're ready to talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we're just going to start kind of general and maybe go down the line. But for everybody who doesn't know you, can you just kind of tell us how you got your start in the industry and why'd you pick creatures? Constantine.
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay. Boy, it's, how did I get started? As a kid, I got into comics. That's where it started. Heavily into Superman, Marvel, DC, all of it. Fast forward to then high school, took some classes. I had an amazing high school teacher who pretty much showed me all the masters from Frazetta to Rockwell to Muka and many more. Fast forward then to Art Center, got in around 18, right out of high school, graduated 21 years old, and got into creature design in practical effects. Was fortunate enough to work at Stan Winston's, Rick Baker, a lot of just iconic makeup effects guys that I was fortunate enough to learn from. And at 21 years old, just so excited to just even be doing what I was doing, was just a sponge and just bothered everyone. I just go and poke and say, hey, what are you doing there? I would love to just learn and learn from fabricators, mechanics, sculptors, mold makers, all of it. Just was a sponge, and was fortunate enough to just be designing creatures and seeing them come to life practically. And so I was very lucky to just be a part of the industry where I got to see animatronics, got to sculpt and do foam latex and silicone makeups, you name it. And then after about a 14-year career in practical effects, doing just from specialty costumes to creature design and just being heavily involved. I mean, I even was fortunate enough to have teams and art direct when my boss wasn't there. Kind of ran the company with 2 other producers for the longest time, and then just aggressively went after a lot of films, and yeah, had a great time. So after that, I just started freelancing for all the studios as a creature designer at that time, and yeah, character design. So and now I've kind of branched off even beyond creatures, do a little bit of keyframes, do a little bit of mechs here and there. So just trying to always expand and get better. And I've been also we've all worked together at some level, and I've been friends with these guys for a long time, and they've been very gracious in teaching me their sort of skill set too. I was probably the weakest one doing 3D at a certain time, kind of embarrassing at that when I was first started. And so yeah, throughout the years just stuck with it and worked with Ian and Jerad mainly, Marantz, and Ian and I worked together on Avatar.
Yep.
And Ian was very just, I mean, talk about a friend. Same as Jerad, teaching me, you know. Jerad was the only friend that I could call at like 3 a.m. Like, dude, I'm doing this and I can't. What do I'm confused, you know. And so Jerad gave me actually his setup in ZBrush, so that way then we could always be in straight communication. So he always knew what I was doing wrong. And so
That was more to make his life easier.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, really honed in my skills being surrounded by just major talent. And so I'm sitting here right now, you know, discussing creature design and just concept art, you know, and these guys are a big part of that. So again, you know, good friends and a lot of integrity and just great teachers. So I'm very fortunate to be just here, just talking.
So
with,
from
with this
comic
talent.
books to working on comic
Yeah.
book movies,
That's
that's
Yeah.
not a bad.
Yeah.
Breaking in and now you're doing it. So
Goals.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
yeah.
A little bit of luck and a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
That's the common denominator, I would say.
Oh,
is
yeah.
just endless, just weekends, after hours, and yeah, just grind.
grind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. Ian, you want to tell us how you got your start in the industry?
I've never met this guy in my life. I don't know what he's talking about. No. Yeah, same kind of story. I bet we're all going to have kind of a similar thing
Right,
where
yeah,
it's like,
probably,
I
yeah,
grew up liking comic books and monster movies, and I
Yep.
still like comic books and monster movies. Yeah, growing up, I was drawing, sculpting, doing everything you can imagine. Kind of started in graphic design, of all things, just because when I was first kind of entering the industry, there was that transition from digital to from practical, and I didn't really like where digital was. It was too technical.
Yeah.
Practical didn't seem that thing, so I kind of went into like illustration and graphic design. Did that for a while and had an assignment where I had to do for a band called Nonpoint, if anyone knows them. Very, no. I'm old, by the way, 20-something years now. But we had to do, one side was Da Vinci style drawings in pencil, and the other side was going to be 3D images, and the whole idea was like the life cycle of a frog. And so drew it out on one side, flipped it over, and did this 3D thing where I had never done 3D in my life, and I completely fell in love with it. So I completely pivoted my career from thinking about doing music videos and all of that and started learning 3D and jumped right into character. Character was always the thing I was the most interested in, and probably spent all of my, usually I think if anyone here, most people probably are, doing some 3D, instead of starting off with like the teapot checkerboard. It's like, I'm going to make a character and rig him and make him move around the screen. That was my first thing I ever did in 3D. And completely fell in love. So after that, I started working in games, worked at Blur Studio, did a lot of cinematics, commercials, and after a while of doing primarily modeling and working with just some phenomenal, talented people, I kind of realized like what I liked doing the most was creating from whole cloth and working with people and coming up with solutions. So I started then pivoting from that direction into doing concept art. After that, went to Stan Winston's, which then became Legacy Effects, and got to get my hands on a lot of practical stuff, did a lot of 3D printing, did a lot of on-set stuff, and really kind of learned the hows and whys of the industry, and not just sitting at a desk all the time, but also the many departments that go into it, because we also got to work with the digital side and the practical side. Yeah, so after that, was there for a long while, jumped off and started doing freelance concept design. When I was thinking wasn't sure how I was even gonna get my first job, I actually got a call from Jerad to work on Justice League. And that's
The Justice League, that's
Yep.
all. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
jumped in on that and learned a ton from these two about the actual process of doing costume design. Because although I had done a lot of like specialty costume, it was a little bit different working directly for a costume designer. So again, nice, awesome friends who share ideas and share how to improve. Did that for a long time, got to work on a ton of awesome things, and I feel like I'm going on too long. So. Oh yeah, and then after a while, got a job at Marvel on Thor Ragnarok, which was the first thing, which shortly thereafter, Constantine and Jerad came jumping on it.
Yeah.
Well, you came on for a different project, actually, if I'm not mistaken. It was...
I was there for a while.
was it before? Because it was... Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But
yeah.
jumped onto Ragnarok, and then shortly thereafter, these two were back in the studio again, all of us together again. So it wasn't that big of a... So basically from getting started in the actual, like, working in concept, the three of us have kind of bounced around quite a lot. Left Marvel for a bit, worked on Avatar, which was just an unbelievable experience. And again, he's underselling his ability. The amount of sharing and the amount of, like, generosity shown, not just by our department, but the entire team there, just really inspiring to keep upping your game. And then shortly after that, I went on to Marvel and became a full-time employee with them for the past number of years.
A couple.
Crazy,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Amazing career.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I think we're learning about the power of friendship.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, enough. I worked there for a little bit as a concept artist, then was moved on to visual development supervisor, which means I get to now work with an entire team and help lead them on different projects.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well deserved.
Jared.
Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah. Jared. The other Jared.
The proper Jared.
J-E-R-E.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we all do have very similar origin stories, so I'm going to fast track it. Always drew characters, creatures, loved sculpting. When I was a kid, I kind of broke through at an early age, kind of. I got an internship at a practical effects house when I was 14. So I technically
That's insane.
got to work on, you know, direct to DVDs, which used to be a thing. Now it's like direct to stream, or like Disney Channel movies, which is, you know, become since then a bigger deal. But when I had started, I had originally wanted to do absolutely everything. So it was an incredible opportunity to try everything. So I tried sculpting, I tried mold making, I fiberglassed. I really, when I was interning, actually what I came to realize as I got older is I really just got in everybody's way. That was what had happened. I had glorified it in my head. It's like, oh, I was indispensable and I was incredible. And then as I got older, these memories started, you know, flooding in of me just, you know, messing up and embarrassing myself every day. But again, it was an incredibly useful experience because I was able to try a lot of everything and then realize that I was the most passionate about design. So from there, I got to go to a magnet high school called LACSA, LA County High School for the Arts. And it was great because I don't know how I would have survived high school otherwise. Half the day was academics and the other half I could draw and paint, and teachers would you know, show me how to do it correctly. And then from there, while still juggling a few side things in the industry, I got into Art Center. And there I was able to even hone my skills more, focusing on drawing and painting, which is really just so important. A lot of people don't realize exactly how important it is because there's so many amazing tools out there that you have to know as well. But if your foundation isn't solid, the tools don't do much for you. So it's just like something to remember. So Art Center was that for me. And from Art Center, I got hired in the following week. I graduated over at Stan Winston's. I presented a portfolio, and it was an incredibly validating moment. I was hired on the spot, and that was a tremendous relief because I had invested everything. I had no backup plan whatsoever. So they put me in the design room. I thought I'd be sculpting, but I was happy. And my first jobs, it was just ideation. It was just me on a drafting table, just sketching constantly, just constantly drawing. And I looked around at what everybody else was doing. I had no idea how much the industry had changed, and this was 2005. So by 2005, they were pretty much phasing out drawing for the most part. I mean, it was still there, it was still relevant, but photorealistic designs were now commonplace. And people were either executing those in Photoshop or in 3D programs like Modo. Like ZBrush wasn't even the phenomenon that it was.
Didn't exist yet. It was
Not
like
in
XSI,
2005.
I think.
Lightweight.
XSI,
Yeah.
yeah, all that.
Lightweight.
And so I had to basically go back to school a week after I graduated and just study, learn all the tricks. And there were even things that I didn't want to do. Like I didn't want to paint on top of photos. I spent, 3 years working with oils and acrylics, but that was the demand of the industry. And so it forced me to change, and then that kept happening for years. So after my time at Stan Winston's, I jumped around. I got to touch and work at a lot of different practical effects houses, and I literally, this was back in the day, so I would walk around with a clear folder with printouts of my artwork, and most of these studios were in Van Nuys, so you could literally walk and drop your portfolio off at a few places. And I was fortunate enough to drop my portfolio at a spot called Quantum Creations, and the owner wasn't sure if I was any good. He knew a guy that he wanted to get his opinion. It was Constantine. So Constantine, out of the blue, invited me to dinner, and it was so impactful for me because my experience in the industry was, I was taught by a different generation, and that generation, like, they were used to just fighting for every job. So they're brilliant, very talented people, but it was a different time, and there were also less jobs. So I was basically in the industry at that stage, ready to fight, and then suddenly I'm having dinner with Constantine, and I experience a level of generosity and kindness I had never experienced in the industry before, and I wanted to basically emulate that and help, every artist I could and share and, all that stuff. So that was a big deal for me. And then back to the career, jumped around a lot. I ended up getting costume work on Batman versus Superman. And before that, I did my first Marvel film, which was Guardians of the Galaxy, and eventually got into the union, so transitioning from practical effects house to then union work. And now I'm in both unions, and I do costume and creature work. Costume is $892. The union Art Directors Guild is $800, and here I am.
There he is
There
today.
he is.
There it is.
Now,
Right here.
from young buck to now seasoned vet.
Very
Right.
seasoned.
Very seasoned.
Very
Well, a lot more salt than
like
pepper.
like Dusty.
Yeah.
yeah.
Crusty and
Yeah.
shrink wrapped.
Crackling.
Matt, do you want to take us through real quick? How'd you get in here?
Yeah, sure, man. How did I get in here? It's funny. I'm the baby up here. I've probably been doing this for about 8 years, and man, the first time I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because this is kind of cool. It's very, very cool for me to be here because I was in that crowd probably 10 years ago, you were up there talking about Spider-Man or the Lizard or whatever it was, and I was just like, wow,
I
that
remember
is
that, yeah.
so cool.
that
And
10
now I'm
years
up here
ago?
hanging out with
Yeah,
these
yeah.
guys, you know?
Goes by like a
Man, you know, same origin story, really. Grew up drawing, sculpting, horror movies. I worked at Blockbuster. I rented 5 movies every week.
Who here
watched it.
remembers Blockbuster?
Hey!
Oh, okay, all right.
it's like a
So-
tenth the audience.
The Zoomers don't know.
Yeah, so that was just my brain food, man. I just loved like weird, goopy, scary movies, you know. And honestly, I was living in Arkansas, dude. I didn't know any of it was like real for me. I didn't know I could do it. And fast forward to probably 25 or 26, probably 25. I think I saw Noman on Face Off, the Face Off TV show. And I was like, yo, that is sick. And so, man, I built a portfolio for about a year, came up here, got accepted, and I just busted my butt, guys. If you are going to this school, just hit the ground running, talk to everybody, do your work. I mean, dude, it was, 12, 16 hours a day, every day for 2 years. Yeah. And that paid off. And, man, whenever I got into Jared's creature design class, that's whenever it clicked. I was like, oh my God, this guy does this for a living. What? Oh my gosh. And, Jared saw like my passion. I was just so stoked. And that friendship, that network, ultimately between us and Alex Alvarez just boosted me through, because I did all the hard work. You got to be good to work with. You got to be fun. You got to be willing to learn all of this stuff. And man, the opportunities just it was before school was over. I was in studio, and I'm sitting around all these people that have just been working on movies. I'm like, oh my God, I'm over my head. I remember the first thing I was doing. I was like, how do I like photo bash over? What are they expecting? And, man, that's the fast track, dudes. Like I came to this school and I made it my life, and I manifested it, and I worked really, really hard, and it has just been a roller coaster. I'm so thankful for it, but it's been awesome, dudes. And now, I'm like a third in as far as experience goes, but dude, that's it.
But you done made it.
I
You
did.
done you made it.
That's how I did it, for sure.
Hell yeah. Yeah, my story is I don't know if it's different, but I did commercials as a kid. Started very young in front of the camera, so like I was always kind of, I think, aware of the camera. I was aware of what like production was. I did a bubble tape commercial like very, very, very long time ago, and you can still find it.
It's funny too.
Yeah.
Line?
You should look it up.
Oh, it's me screaming in a chair. Going, "Ah!" Yeah. And it's Aunt Edna, if you want to look it up. But I just remember being very aware of like sets and cameras and all those things. And so I thought for a long time my pursuit was acting. Like I was going to go the acting route. And I went to college for it. And afterwards I kind of floated around. I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I happened to be working out at Gold's Gym. And then I found out that Noman was on the other side of Gold's Gym. And I was like, oh my God. And I applied to Noman. I got in. It was the hardest 2 years of my life, but like the most rewarding.
Yeah.
And my aha moment came sitting in this man's class. And I must have been the most loud and obnoxious one, I think.
Not loud.
Yeah, but mostly obnoxious. But, but you were like, the studio I'm at, we're actually looking for interns. Is anyone interested? And I remember you poking your head, kind of looking around, and my hand went straight
Just
up.
Immediately, like a
Immediately,
rocket.
no
Yeah.
hesitation, because
Yep.
Jared sat down. We had a split class between two instructors, and Jared took over the second half. And when he sat down and he presented his work, I was like, the light bulb, all the light bulbs were firing, everything was flared up, and I was like, this is it, this is it. And I enthusiastically, I was like, me, and I was working with you like a week later.
Yep.
I was doing grunt work, intern stuff.
Yeah.
But being in that environment and listening to other artists talk, I absorbed everything that you guys did. I absorbed all the language, and I was like, oh, nasolabial folds. And,
Yeah.
You know, and
That's a big deal.
trilateral legs. I was like, oh my God. Like I could feel my brain rewiring as it happened. And thank you to your tutelage, because I wouldn't be here today without it. And
Well,
so-
that was my favorite moment as a teacher, actually.
Yeah.
And I knew you because I knew you were the only one paying attention. So when I offered it, I'm like, here it comes.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that was probably the most valuable day for the rest of the students as well.
Yeah, they learned a lesson too.
Yeah, because I mean, you sees it, and
Yeah,
Jared
yeah.
just like it was immediate. I don't even think I finished the last
No,
word.
you were
It was just
no,
like,
it was up.
Yeah, yeah.
My hand was up.
Very
I
impressive.
was ready, and you know, it took me a good couple years to get like good, like okay, like okay. I knew I was green. I knew it was going to take a while to get good, but I would go home just excited from the day of like absorbing all that stuff, and I would just go work on my portfolio, and I would just grind, and man, yeah, here I am, you know, 14 years later, again up with my heroes. So
Yeah.
you know, always pay attention to the signs, look for opportunities wherever they arise. So we're gonna get on to our next question. That was just the first question,
Yeah.
but I do have some questions that are, you know, a little bit quicker, a little bit more tropey.
Yeah.
So Matt, you want to hit this one?
Yeah, what is that?
Can you read my writing?
Favorite creature design.
Okay, doesn't have to be yours.
Yeah.
But your favorite creature design that
Probably
you
shouldn't be ours. You know?
It shouldn't be ours. No,
Come off a little egotistical.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I did. But
I really love everything I do. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I stumped him.
That's
Matt, you
so
want to go
hard.
first?
That's so
Yeah,
hard.
actually, the very first movie I remember seeing was The Predator. And I saw that before I saw The Lion King, whenever that came out.
It was a double feature.
And yeah, and you know, it snuck into the room while my dad was watching this movie, and I was like, oh, wow, you know, and then the Predator mouth. I was like, oh my God, what is that?
That was the
And
moment.
it's just been that and the Xenomorph. They've both just been burned into my brain, dude, ever since.
For everyone's brain.
Yeah.
I think I was going to go ahead.
I've always been a huge James Cameron fan, and Alien Queen, and H.R.
Yeah.
Giger, and Aliens in general. I mean, I was literally watching Aliens earlier today. I think lately I watch all. Yeah, no, seriously, yeah. I've been watching it lately only because I'm working on something. Alien, and I always put movies that inspired me.
Yeah.
And so as a kid, and so that is like number one. And so and then to fast forward to then work on Avatar and then get to learn from
Man himself.
Yeah, that's so cool.
was just a highlight in my career. And I walked away a better artist in every way.
Sick.
And it's everything that they say
cool. Yeah.
about him is very true. He can do everyone's job much better. Ian can attest to this. We would walk in with all these like 3D like ZBrush models that we've printed out, and James Cameron with like just a big piece of paper with like a huge marker, Sharpie, like silhouette, and it just would trump all of us. And within minutes, design probably like what he did, like 10 sketches, 12 sketches in like 5 minutes, and and here we're like all this technology, you know, meant nothing, you know, but yeah, it just goes to show, as Jared was saying, just draw, you know, even though you have all this technology, the most fundamental thing that really separates an amazing design, an amazing designer, a creature designer, is drawing. When you look at all the iconic and just artists who do creature design, you have it's a must to be able to draw. I mean, yeah, you have to know 3D, you have to know some sort of program that you can implement that in, but yeah.
I remember the first week being there having to show sketchbook stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was just so that Cameron
Yeah.
could
Just
go.
so you knew, so
So
you
you could be
knew.
like, okay, cool, you could
Like
now
fed
you could
you
start doing your
with it.
fancy.
How terrifying is it to have him
Oh my
look at
God.
your sketches?
My first meeting for that we went into a theater like this, actually a bigger screen than this, and they displayed not just our finished renders, but our sketchbook images on a giant thing. Well, it was a theater of primarily James Cameron sitting in front of us. And I have never been so terrified in my life to see my work on the screen. That was nerve-wracking.
He's the maestro, so yeah. He is. Favorite creature design?
Okay, I could go with any of the things they've said, but I'm going to go with something different. When I was 3 years old, a movie came out, and I watched it at the drive-in. Yeah. I remember being in the back seat of our Volvo. We're watching this movie. I had the Return of the Jedi sleeping bag in front of me, and Jabba the Hutt came on screen.
There you go.
And scorched my brain.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I didn't know what I was seeing. I was covering myself up, but could not look away at the same time. And so I'm gonna go with Jabba the Hutt on today.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a real good one.
Jared, you look pensive.
Yeah.
That's a hard question.
This is a hard question. It's a hard question for creature guys.
Ask me tomorrow would be a different answer.
Yeah. Well, it's very hard because I feel like it's so subjective in terms of when it clicks for you. You know what I mean? So I remember, when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to see R-rated movies for a very long time, and
Sounds
then
familiar. Yeah.
and so I missed out on a lot, and then I ended up having to backtrack, and so my understanding of creature design was actually diluted because I was seeing all of these like knockoffs of the awesome thing, so I had to backtrack. But when I was able to see R-rated movies, finally, I think like my parents got divorced and my dad wanted me to like him more, so he let me he let me see some R-rated movies. And this one is kind of odd because I know it's not everybody's favorite, but it really inspired me because I was a bit of a blank slate at the time, and so it was Alien Resurrection, and it was the newborn.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, the hybrid.
Yeah,
right?
hybrid.
Yeah.
That thing just got me. And I was really excited. Also, that movie was just so interesting and different and stylized and pushed. And yeah, that one.
It's the one with Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
Really
that
slimy,
thing.
yeah.
Slimy movie.
It's like the fourth. It's like the fourth movie after
Yeah.
David Fincher's.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it was the City of Lost Children director.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was really cool, really bizarre movie, and that one got me.
It's stuck
Yeah.
in there. That one's stuck in there.
It was that and Mean Machine from and it's not a creature.
Judge Dredd?
Yeah, from Judge Dredd.
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
It was just like it's makeup, it's practical effects.
Yeah.
It was like scar tissue and hard surface, and it was just very
movie
exciting.
magic.
Yeah,
And it just captured
both done by ADI.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are two ADI.
I
kids.
think I have an ADI as well because mine was Tremors.
Oh, there you go.
Ah.
If you-
that's a
so
good
I
one.
saw, I saw
Yeah.
Tremors in theaters, and that one stuck in there because I'd never seen the maw on that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
The mouth opens and then snakes come out of its mouth. that was just so memorable, and the movie itself is so fun
Yeah.
and silly, and then they got this great creature in there too. So I mean,
And that show built ADI.
yeah.
Like they didn't have ADI, and then they got the show and they built around it. They built their company around that one.
All right. So we're
Updating his notes.
we're kicking off. Well, we're trying. I have so many. I over prepared. I have so many questions.
You sent me the
but-
list and it was like 400 questions.
Yeah, it was a lot because I got a lot of questions. But a good one that we agreed on is, and feel free anyone to chime in. But like, you get a project, it comes across your desk. They're like, we need creature for this. What is your mindset starting a project? Stumped him.
What
Yeah.
what is our mind when we start?
Yeah, when you start a project, they're like, go.
Mhm.
Where do you go from there?
I
Well,
mean, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's so many things typically, but a lot of us jump on, big franchises, and when you have that, it's like, okay, what does the director want? What's the source material?
Right.
What's my 2 cents? So there's that. If it's a creature design, then you read the excerpts in the script, you see what they're describing, you see what the director likes, and then essentially what you're trying to do is figure out what the box is. And the box is essentially like getting rid of the blue sky phase. What will it have to be inevitably?
Yeah.
Between what the director likes, what's in the script, what they can afford.
Yeah.
That's
You
a
know,
big one.
what are their limitations? Is it practical? Is it a VFX? And once you isolate that, and that's where that's usually what a pro can do is he just puts it in the box, and then you gather your reference and you generate your 3-5 options and throw it in front of them and see what they say.
Yeah, that first round of feedback is like critical, I think, like, because you were talking about blue sky, and blue sky is whenever you're just like, I'm just gonna throw something
Full
out there.
creative
yeah,
freedom,
I'm just gonna
basically.
go for it.
That's what
'cause
we
you're,
call blue sky.
And you're trying to see what sticks to the wall, and you get that first round, because sometimes you'll get a prompt and it's like, then monster shows up, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay. We have no context, Maybe they'll be like, yeah, he's bipedal, and maybe he's a spider, maybe he's a bear, and you're like, what? They don't know what they're doing, right? And so that you see what sticks that first time, and then that's whenever I'm like, okay, game plan. Now we know kind of like, what are they thinking? What are they vibing? Like, is it the silhouette? Because sometimes if the lighting's not right, they don't like an image. Sometimes. There's little things. It depends on how the client reads it. So it is kind
Sometimes
of.
they get stuck on
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, they get
and
stuck.
And you're,
You show them a gray render, they're like, well, why isn't it colored?
like Ian, how did you guys come up with the Eternals creatures? Because that
was a
that
very-
look
yes.
is so unique.
Jared can join on this conversation too. There
yeah.
was a lot of development on that. I actually came
Yeah.
in pretty darn late on that project.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was working on some other stuff. This is one of those things where when a project comes out and they say something like unlike anything we've ever seen before.
Never seen before.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
question. I think
Get
we
that
all
one
have
all
gotten
the
that
time.
note, right?
Yeah, you get that a lot.
But then they also say, but it's like a werewolf, or it's like a this, or it's like a that.
Exactly.
Like, okay. So tons of development was put into that. Rodney Fuentebella did a design that was almost the opposite of what everything was asked for. Almost like I'm just going to try something different because we're not getting anywhere.
Took
and
a wild swing.
And
Yeah.
it clicked. And it was like, this is interesting. So then we started iterating off of that and turning it into a whole ton of other things. So talking about the blue sky or the shotgun approach where you have the box, right? You want to see from here to here. If we're just staying in this zone and we never explore that far end, like they might think they're liking something, but they're not landing on it because they haven't seen the full scope of where things could go. So yeah, like when we're starting a new project, I think number one thing I think about is what's my deadline?
Yeah.
Do I
What's
have a
the
week?
time
Do I have a
frame?
day?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I'm pretty lucky now where I work that we have what I'd consider a reasonable schedule where I can actually like think, digest, if there is any kind of reference material to take, be it script, be it idea, or just like, hey, we need some scary thing.
Yeah.
Scary thing. Okay, what do I think is scary? And start putting together stuff and start coming up with ideas and try to really spread it out across a spectrum so people can say, that's too scary, which has been, I think, something we've probably all gotten as well.
Oh, yeah.
So when the scariest thing you've ever seen, you do something like that. That's too scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Like children are watching.
Yeah. Like, we're thinking like a shark. Okay. That's easier to do. So yeah, usually like once I know the time frame, it really helps to figure out like, am I doing a mood board to start with, or am I going to do a bunch of finished pieces to kind of really sell the ideas that I have here?
Constantine?
Yeah, I mean, everything that they're saying is completely true in the process. What I would just add is if I get the luxury, I'd just love to just do silhouette sketches.
Yeah.
And if a director can read that, that's amazing. But that varies. Some directors and producers, again, depending on your time frame, they want to see the eye candy. They want to see how beautifully rendered it is. Whereas, like, again, I digress back to James Cameron, who can read sketches, and you can do just doodle little. I have a 5x7 sketchbook that I just was drawing today, just more silhouettes on this alien thing that I'm working on, and that to me is gold. And so if I have that luxury and the director can read that, I try to impress that as much as I can. It's easy to then segue into 3D and then making it beautiful and all that kind of stuff. You have so many talented people today, I mean, in schools that can do that, but what is that silhouette, you know, and what is the task? If it's something more humanoid, then I'll probably do something a bit more in 3D or photo bash and find something a little bit more in that. But then, yeah, if it's something really like a creature, I'd love to just sketch.
Yeah.
My design students don't like doing all the silhouettes I make them do, but it all comes down to the silhouette.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And a unique silhouette too. All right. Here's another one. What does I got to get better on the segues? But how? All right. Here's an interesting one. What does success look like for a creature designer?
That's a good
Someone's
question.
gonna have to tell me, what does that feel like? I don't
We're
know.
still waiting to find out. Okay, I think I don't know if this is exactly the answer, but one of the things that I feel like project successfully accomplished, seeing it on the screen, of course, but for me, and I think you can attest to this too, seeing the toy on the shelf sometimes can be the coolest thing in the world. To me, that
Toy's
is like,
pretty good.
all right.
Yeah, because you come from toys, and you're, as a kid, you latch onto your toys. I'm sure we all had
Yes, as a kid.
our totem. Yes, as a child. Yeah, we didn't run out to the stores to go buy a bunch of toys at all. So yeah, seeing the toys, seeing it on screen.
Yep.
Yeah, seeing it on screen definitely helps. But also, every now and then, if it meant something to somebody, because there's so many factors involved in a successful creature design, and only a fraction of that lands on us.
Yeah.
Like, you can do a beautiful creature design for a movie that just wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And your work just evaporates. It's like baby with a
It
bathwater.
goes to the content mill. Where, where they put it down.
It's just so bizarre. So lightning kind of has to strike. Like, you have to do something you're proud of. It has to be good, and people have to like it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been doing it for a while, and maybe a handful of the designs I've done have actually resonated with someone, and that means something to me. I guess that would make it successful.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so rare just to get something on screen.
Yeah.
On top of that.
I mean, that's thrilling.
Yeah.
It's always thrilling.
But we don't write the movies.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't direct the movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think when people are critiquing something, they're critiquing story and
Yes.
things that are outside
Yeah.
of the designer's control. Like
Yeah.
we don't write the stories. We're not,
You're like, but the monster was cool, right?
Yeah, but do you like the
Yeah.
monster?
Yeah,
right?
it was pretty cool, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all done designs before that we're pretty proud of, or that even got a great reception, but then the story just doesn't work for it.
Yeah,
And it
right.
just gets cut right out of
Falls
the movie.
flat.
Yeah.
And you just say,
Like, that's off to the archives.
Do you remember that feeling though of seeing your first design on screen and how you felt?
First design.
That's the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
for some of you guys, yeah. But how did that feel when you?
Oh, it's adrenaline rush. It's the closest thing to having drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and it doesn't get old.
Yeah.
It
No, I
does
was just gonna
not,
say, I
even
agree.
Yeah.
You
even
kind of
now.
chase it. You chase it too, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that
you're chasing
that
that high,
keeps you
dude.
up at night.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh, I'm gonna it's-
Yeah. This one's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is it. This
They're
is
gonna
the
love
one.
me
Yeah.
for this. Yeah.
I remember the first thing that I ever did that got selected was a gun for an alien for Falling Skies, and I remember specifically hearing that Spielberg chose that gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spielberg, And I went home, and I swear to God, I floated the whole way home.
Yeah.
Because I was just, you're on cloud nine. You're like, oh my God, my hero. You know, my heroes are, you know, and you just chase that feeling forever.
That
Yeah,
is
man.
exciting when the world gets smaller.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
just
that's almost bigger than seeing it on the screen sometimes when you're
yeah.
sitting shoulder to shoulder with someone. They're like, I used to just read about you or
Yeah.
see you
Yeah,
things that were working.
yeah.
That's pretty
I hate to bring this up, but I mean, it's gonna date me. But when I was working practical effects, and I got to see the process from literally paper sketch to then hand it over, sculpting it,
Yeah.
someone sculpting it, and then fabricated, moving an actual practical creature in the studio. Like it wasn't even on screen, just a film test to show the director. That is just something that I even to this day is just
With
yeah.
with practical, you feel it
Yeah.
more, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're in the room with it and there's performance happening.
Yeah.
And I experienced that on Antlers. Is they made the thing look at me and I went,
Yeah.
you felt it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, what
Yeah.
about you? What was your like? Oh my God.
Oh, dude, the first time. So one of the big deals in like design is sometimes you'll like kick out, you know, a design and it shows up in the movie and it's like 90% your design. You're like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's really cool. Whenever I saw Ralph from Rampage, just that 1-to-1 render, and he's like flying up and eating a bus full of people, I was like, oh! And I went to Walmart and got the toys, and I was like, yeah! You know, I was like, oh, people were scalping them for like $300 at toy fairs. So I'm like, these toys aren't even good, but it's just awesome.
But the people loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know the like personal successes or whenever you get those dream gigs. Whenever Venom came in, I worked for free over the weekend. I brought in all of my Venom comics to the studio. I was like, boom, I'm going Mark Bagley on this, bro. I'm just gonna crank out 100 pieces. They don't want Carnage, I'm doing Carnage too and throwing it in for free. I'm like, let's go, dude.
Yeah.
That's that feeling is just so cool whenever you get that opportunity to actually work on a property that you love. I
Yeah.
think.
So, okay, what is on that like experience level? What has been a project that was like extremely, you would say, monumental for you, or was maybe the final product wasn't so great, but the working experience was so good?
I mean, I was fortunate enough to work on Blade 2 and Hellboy, Hellboy 2, and
That is sick.
with also another amazing creature designer, Wayne Barlow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were working in tandem together with, I say this with all
That's nuts.
humility, with Guillermo del Toro, who did phenomenal sketches as well. He's kind of like another James Cameron.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, those kind of, and then recently again, Avatar: Way of the Water. Ian and I worked on the Tolkien, and so that was an amazing process. And then to be able to share that with a friend that who has integrity and you trust and all that is, and then House of Dragons is another one that was so.
Yeah, House of Dragons is so cool, man. Those dragons are dope.
Dude, they're
Very
great.
lucky,
they're so good.
very
Beautiful.
lucky to be
Yeah.
to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian, what about you?
My goodness. There's been a lot. I guess project-wise, the one that couple that stick in my head, but this one sticks in my head as being pretty special, was working on Endgame.
Yeah. Well,
And being in the theater and hearing the eruption on opening day.
Oh my gosh.
And realizing it, like, you know, this affected some people. It's pretty cool to be part of this.
that was like a 10-year culmination,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it came together at Endgame.
And my first movie I worked on, the first film I worked on, was Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, I circled around the Marvel team for a long time. I would work freelance or through other studios, and then to be able to come in and work, you know, directly with this amazing team and actually be part of this like culmination of 10 years of just awesomeness was.
And if I remember correctly, your concept model went to production, right? Wasn't that right?
For
Oh wait, did you say Spider-Man?
Oh, sorry, no. But
Endgame. I was thinking of the lizard. My bad.
I don't know. I probably.
Yeah.
Jared?
Yeah, that's. I'm sorry. What was the question?
Well, what was your like favorite working experience?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was. It was Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity War. Like that was amazing. To come in and work on like this incredible like final chapter to that phase, and again to hear the response from people, like it felt surreal that it was like that impactful for audiences, and that it had done so well. So that was really incredible. And then right before that, Justice League. So
Yeah.
it was really bizarre jumping from the culmination of the Snyderverse and their big finale with all of their big bad guys and everything, and then to do that, and then immediately, like, there was even some bleed between the two shows.
Oh, wow.
Where I had to, like, they were thinking about these characters, and like, oh, okay, there's my weekend. And to go from that to Endgame and Infinity War was surreal. Like that like year and a half was bizarre, because it was like every comic book character that I ever cared about. And fortunately, my experience on Justice League was good, and it actually calmed me before jumping into Endgame and Infinity
That's
War.
so sick, dude.
Yeah, but to go like they were very similar projects, so it was bizarre.
Well, I remember when a phone call with you when you were telling me you were working on the bat suit, and that was. I think you were at least 10 feet above the ground.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
You were floating.
Because that was my comic book character.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And we shared a conversation
Yeah,
about
we did,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember on the podcast, because your pedestal thing was Godzilla.
My totem was Godzilla. Yeah.
And this is just like, it's amazing we both got to do our things.
Yeah, our thing. Yeah.
Like, it's just
We had our full circle moments.
Yeah.
On that.
It's very bizarre, and I mean, I remember it actually shook me for a bit. Like, things weren't fun for a while after that wrapped. It's just like, I get a cool assignment, but I'm just like, oh, it's not. And that happens, and it's a good problem to have. But yeah, those were two great experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, mine was also Godzilla. If I think whenever I started I started at Nomen, it was right after I took your class. I was like, I don't want to work on like the toe of Godzilla. I want to make Godzilla. And getting to actually have one of my creatures, like my little babies, my scary baby in a Godzilla movie is just.
It's yeah.
I mean, to this day, whenever if people ever bring it up, I'm like, oh my God, there's fans. They love my guy, and he would have killed Kong. I want to make that clear. He would have killed him if the humans didn't intervene.
Well, kind of
shade thrown on Kong.
in the same kind of vein, what was what is it like working with directors, with producers? They're sitting by your side, maybe sitting over your shoulder. For people that haven't had that experience, can you talk about like what do you feel the pressure? Do you feel like what's it like?
I mean, it could be, especially starting out, it can be very stressful. I have been lucky to sit in the room with some of my heroes and be able to take notes, take compliments, and take insults at the same time, sometimes in the same meeting. And you just have to perform. You have to be able to do the work. You have to remind yourself that it's like, I'm here for a reason. Like, I'm not on a tour. They need this thing done. I mean, to talk about Cameron, like you go in a room with him and you're like, wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for your filmography,
Yeah.
I early on, one of the first big design things that I got approved along with my friend Scott Patton was for Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And I got to pitch the idea for the creature in the room to Spielberg and Favreau and Howard, and that was a very stressful thing because I had come from, I sit behind the desk, people tell me what to do, I work with my team, and that's it. And then they're like, well, no, you just go in there, just go talk about what you want to do and show the model and, you know, present it. I'm like, yeah, I got this, yeah, no problem.
Oh, wow.
I think it went well, and it was it was a surreal experience. I mean, it was hard to beat that one. You know?
Yeah, you sat in the room with them.
Yeah.
Showing them your artwork, and you have these high-level.
As they're asking questions about, like, how do the legs work?
Yeah.
What does this do? The thing had a thing that opened up with these little arms that would come out and do fun little, creepy, touchy things.
Yeah.
And to have to, like, show the model. This is early days of 3D, so we had done renders, paint overs, and then I was in there actually showing this model, and I had to build it in enough stages that we could present all the main things we wanted it to do on a big screen, so we kind of show what this is like. And so the other thing is just hoping, unlike a sketchbook, please don't crash.
Yeah. They don't tell you about the fear of moving
Yes.
around a program and then just knowing at any minute it could all like blink
Melt.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Jared, what about you?
Well, I mean, I've worked with a few. I think my biggest takeaway was that every single job is so different. And you can't necessarily take what worked on one show and apply it to the next because, some directors can read your doodles, and some directors need everything hyper resolved. And I've been surprised at times when, a big director does need something that type. It's like, oh, you used to look at doodles all the time, but I guess it doesn't answer enough questions or whatever. So, I mean, that was always my takeaway is just like even if you're working at the same company, every time a new director comes in, it's a different gig, you know.
Yeah, because some like things this way, or
Yep.
they can't read it, or they really have something fixed in their mind. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
It's always a brand new problem.
Yeah.
Even if it's a very similar creature.
Yeah.
I mean, I've presented turnaround sheets as opposed to like an actual turntable,
Yeah.
where they said, "Well, I like the one in the middle, but I don't like the one on the left."
Oh wow!
Same model.
Like how do
Yeah.
you tell them?
Take
like,
the
how
note
do-
and then you do a turntable to show them it
Yeah.
moving, and
Yeah.
that usually can resolve the question.
yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is it's changed my process. Like I reassess every now and then, and I'll look at my work and I realize that the job has actually shaped me as an artist. Because, starting very traditionally and then having no choice but to pick up, one program after the other or one technique after the other. And, I'm still in there, but just to stay ahead of the curve and to become essentially just a very effective visual communicator, which is what we are, and problem solver, you just have to go with it, and you just have to learn new tricks. And then when you work with a new client, you just never know which tool you're going to have to pull out in order to solve their problem.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
every situation's different. You never know. Never know what you're gonna get. Matt, do you have a?
Yeah, probably more in a look dev background, like whenever I'm doing an actual like creature for the film on the asset. You're
Production side, like heavy
you're
production
texturing
side.
it, you're lighting it, you're modeling it to the T. Sometimes you're getting concept art. We need to figure this out, because this is no longer illustration. This has got to move. You've got to sculpt 150 blend shapes for the face because it's going to talk. And you get the guy, like, the working, it's even harder for the producer, director types to look at visual effects because they can't really tell you what's wrong. They'll be like, he's not, or maybe, and
They use
he's-
the word feel a lot. It doesn't
feel strong enough, and you're like, okay, is he too translucent? Do I need to sculpt the muscles different? Like, is the spec breakup not working? Like these things all play into how you read a creature and the lighting especially. So whenever you have sometimes I'll throw in like the dramatic scene lighting, even though everybody wants like, you know, the T-pose, turnaround and broad daylight, you know, boring. You can't see any of that stuff that you're actually making for your film. And so whenever I get those kind of notes, I'll always have those renders like in a different folder. Like, yeah, it's just, and I'm like, okay. Pop that. He's like, oh yeah, that's looking pretty cool. I'm like, oh, you know. you gotta kind of make sure you got like all your ducks in a row, because you're working so long on these assets, and that feedback can become like backwards. You can start moving backwards because there's not a. They're not visual effects artists. They know what it looks like to them. They have a thing, but it's like, okay, I've got a million things I could dial, but instead, I'll show you some different presentation. I'll show you it in motion. I'll pose it. That's like the biggest one in production. You always get these boring, like I said, the A pose or the T pose. And it's like, you know, I'll just pose it right quick.
It's the not sexy stuff.
Yeah.
The not sexy side of production.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that would be my takeaway is whenever you're in like look dev in production, always have some backup presentations, you know, have like, even if they're not asking for it, because you know that you've done the work and you know how it's going to read in the plate or whatever, you know. And it's also to the point that I've got to know nuke, I've got to know compositing, I've got to know all of this stuff. So as look dev lead over a team, maybe I'm working on a creature, I render it out, I get the plate, I pop it in, I color grade it, I match it to everything, and then I send that to compositing. I'm like, this is the look that we're going for. And then they can fine tune it. You know? That's, being able to do that stuff in a production pipeline is 100% key, for sure.
I think some of my favorite kind of experiences are when the director is particularly enthusiastic and you can feel that energy coming from them. Adam Wingard on Godzilla vs. Kong had that kind of boyish excitement
Yeah, he is fun.
for the project, and so you know he's telling you a story. He's like, "Let me tell you what's going on," and you're like, "Yeah!" You know, you just want to read, you just want to feel that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so when a director's really excited about, you know, because for a director, they're going to be on this thing for possibly years of their lifetime, and you are the first kind of in line.
Yeah.
To work on it, and so you also have to be excited for it too, because you're like, yeah, we're dreaming together, baby, and then you say goodbye, and they keep going, you know, they keep going for sure. All right, so segue. All right, so all right, now, what are our favorite creature tropes? Okay, so if you all know what a trope is. Trope is just a thing that you see over and over again. I'm wondering if you guys have a favorite creature trope.
One
that you
one
say
giant
over again?
eyeball.
One giant eyeball. You know I love giant
floating,
eyeball.
slimy eyeball.
I like the surprise. I like the Predator moment.
Yeah.
The helmet comes off and the crazy man.
The reveal. The reveal.
Big
You
reveal.
thought you knew, but you had no idea.
Yeah, our
That's
creature
always
also
fun.
does this.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah. Constantine,
Yeah.
what about you?
I guess, God, that's tough.
Rows of teeth, you know.
Translucent baby arms.
Odd,
that's really
the odd numbers, like the odd numbers instead
Okay.
instead of the
Nice.
even numbers, the odd numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
know?
The
Yeah.
asymmetry kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, breaking that up a
Yeah.
little bit.
I got nothing.
No, you come on.
I'm just trying to think of a well, I loved it when Predator took his mask off.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and it wasn't just his face and then his mouth open. Like that was phenomenal. Yeah, I can't really. Let me think. A trope. I like when design has been pushed beyond expectation and is done successfully. In my experience, that rarely happens because people are afraid to make design risks.
Yeah, it's more grounded.
Yeah, everything gets whittled down until like the silhouettes become very familiar, or
gorilla arms.
yeah,
Gorilla
or get
stance.
trilateral legs.
Trilateral
yeah,
legs.
you know.
That's
And so when I'm excited when I see something in film, it really comes from bravery and luck in the sense of just like, wow, the fact that they approved that design, the fact that the studio said, oh yeah, let's do this, and it's bizarre and it's pushed and it's extreme, but still executed.
Just a little weird.
You know, very well. Then I'm very excited because nowadays we've just seen everything, and we've seen everything done so well. So yeah, I would say a design risk where it doesn't look like Alien and it doesn't look like Predator, and I can't say it's just like, oh, they just did that, and that's pretty rare.
I was just thinking of Shazam: Fury of the Gods, because they have this great unicorn in there.
Did you do that?
No.
No? Oh.
No, but they have this great unicorn, and it's a good spin on a
You did some
unicorn.
stuff.
I don't know.
I just find it
Did you
funny.
do?
No, because I worked on that movie
Yeah.
for like 3 weeks. I just worked on the dragon.
Oh,
Oh,
I
okay.
think
Yeah.
a minotaur.
Yeah, the Minotaurs were cool too.
Yeah.
Just did a dragon and a minotaur.
Casually
I
doing
get your unicorn.
Minotaurs.
It's a
I
typical
didn't work on
weekend.
it. No, that was Carlos Fuente. If I'm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
anything,
Nice.
Carlos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
that
he's gorgeous.
in that vein, who are some designers that you guys look up to?
Dan
I-
Peacock.
Yeah, that dude is crazy. Dan Peacock. If you have not seen his work, it's
Horrifying.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
He goes by Pencil Moose, but his work is surreal and very like highly rendered.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of people are like,
Yeah.
oh, shit.
Are you like contemporary
Yeah,
designer?
Or,
I mean-
or classics.
Oh, I mean, well, I'm a huge fan of Bekchinsky.
Yeah.
Giger, Wayne
course.
Barlow,
Of course.
for sure. Yeah, James Cameron.
I think
yeah.
everybody here can be like Barlow.
Yeah.
is-
Yeah, Barlow.
Chris Cunningham is.
that's good.
Chris Cunningham was the very first sort of artist that I saw that I was like, oh wow, you can actually do this for a living.
Yeah.
And I collected
Chris Halls at the time.
Chris Halls, yes.
Yeah.
And so he worked at ADI.
Yep.
And did Mean
Mean
Machine,
Machine.
and did
Sick.
Alien 3.
Yeah. Those
Yeah,
were his
yeah,
babies. Yeah. Phenomenal talent. Now he's just a brilliant director.
Yeah, but yeah,
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Traded down.
yeah.
I'd go with one outside of just creature design because I think you guys have named so many great ones. But Ralph McQuarrie. I mean,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
we're all in storytelling, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
and every single concept painting is like you want to step into it. You want to. It's not one to one to what we saw in the movie, but it is.
Yeah.
The flavor is there. The
There-
feel is there.
They're to the point now where they're just like, let's just take old Macquarie paintings and make that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Wow, it's such an iconic shape." It's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
from the '70s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, and it's evident in my work. Wayne Barlow, big fan, obviously, but out of left field, Takayuna Takea and Nirasawa.
Nirasawa. I remember you introducing me to Nirasawa.
Yeah,
and
and
that was a big.
Yeah, the overseas stuff. I mean, they push, and those creature core books.
Yeah,
Those-
yeah.
If you haven't seen them, there's like Nero Works and Creature Core, and they're just phenomenal one-off maquettes, super sculpty, found objects, brilliant.
Kit Bash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kit
Yeah,
Bash.
yeah.
Brilliant, visceral, extreme, and a lot of design risk. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely. Huante, of course.
Yeah.
No one pushes anatomy like Huante can push anatomy around.
Yeah.
Shout out
and-
Simon Lee too.
Yeah, Simon
Yeah.
Lee. Yeah, shout out to him. Who is he's a clay bender. Like the guy.
Works in clay like most
Yeah.
people would work in pencil. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
Even he's doing a lot of ZBrush stuff
Yeah,
now.
I was gonna
and
say, yeah.
it also echoes his sculpting language.
I don't think it would be bad to say this, and hopefully he's okay with me sharing this, but I used to teach a class on ZBrush, and he was in the class to learn it, and I just remember day one, like having everyone just kind of noodling around. He knew none of the software.
Yeah.
He had a sphere and the move tool, and he had sculpted out this really cool little like skull human head thing. He did not know how to use the software at all, and he did something like, well, because your form and your fundamentals are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And now, just the other day, I saw him posting up all of these ZBrush sketches,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow.
And his speed and the speed of his imagination
Yeah,
is.
And this, again,
unparalleled.
storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you look at full zombie apocalypse happening. The Ninja Turtles doing a whole
Yeah.
thing.
So much energy.
Yeah.
They'll do these like
Yeah.
koi with goblin things.
Yeah.
You know, just everything has like a little tale being told.
Well, the interesting thing about his process, and I taught the tail end of that
You
class.
did. I was going to say, because I
so-
started it, and then I think my daughter was born, and then
Yeah,
Jerad.
I think you warned me. You're like, Simon Lee's in there. And I was like, I
We
can't-
actually had a few phenomenal people in that class.
Yeah.
It was shocking.
Yeah, but I remember sitting there trying to teach creature design. Guys like right there. I'm like, come on, man. Like, all right, let's see what happens. But his process, if you've ever seen him sculpt, is actually very similar to ZBrush. So he actually takes flimsy armature wire and he does it in T-pose, basically, in his hand. Then he poses it. He lets the clay cool. Chavant cools. It becomes more rigid. And then he gets these amazing poses out of it. And then he, like, screws it into a base and finishes it off.
Yeah, there's always a movement. You know,
Yeah.
there's gesture and movement.
Yeah.
And I recently was working with him a little bit and seeing, and he was doing stuff in both ZBrush and in clay.
Yep.
And I was just like, dude, what is going on? It's insane.
I took his class. I took his in-person class, and that experience of just watching him work, it changed how I worked in ZBrush. I was like, oh my god, I get it. Like, oh.
I don't know if he still teaches live classes,
He's
but
still
if he
doing
does,
it,
yeah.
sign
Yeah,
up.
if you
Yeah.
can, take a Simon Lee class
Yeah.
for sure.
I just remember him
Amazing.
doing hands,
Yeah.
and like I remember, usually you're overthinking everything. Like, do I have to make it armature for this?
Yeah.
He's just pulling this stuff out,
Yeah.
making these beautiful gestures, and you're like, that's just so cool.
It's just art. Yeah, it's just pure imagination.
And not precious with anything,
Nah.
which is very valuable just to be
yeah,
around
if something's
that.
not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melt it down, do something else.
Do you think that, like, is that necessary for you guys too? Like, if something's not working, do you just like shut it down, or
I have to remind
or
myself
do you just
that a
like
lot of times.
Yeah.
brute force? Like, I gotta push through this
No,
thing.
I mean, if something's not working, it's important to be able to let it fall away.
Yeah, you
'cause
can hit a brick wall real quick.
You'll burn through your entire schedule just
Yeah.
trying to get this one thing done
Yeah.
because you're like, I think it's there.
I think I saw someone say that if it's not working in the first like 10 minutes, it's not gonna work 10 hours later either.
I think it goes back to what Constantine was saying about the silhouettes and the sketching. Like,
Yeah.
Fundamentals.
if you do a rough sketch, you're like, this is cool and exciting, then you put the effort in,
Yeah.
it's still cool and exciting, then you've got something.
Right. I mean, you learn that in figure drawing too, where I mean, that's the first time I ever came across it, where the instructor's just like turn the page, and he knew I was just
go,
like,
yeah.
like burying my charcoal into like a couple of like I was mad, so like flip a page.
Well, I think we're ready to open it
Yeah.
up to audience questions.
Let's do it.
So they're gonna run around. They've got this softbox microphone. Don't hold it too close to your face. just kind of at a distance and kind of like.
Is that
talk.
because of danger or
Talk.
just 'cause it's too loud?
Because it gets like
Okay.
Wow.
it'll
It'll
destroy
explode. It won't, like,
all
won't
of
eat
us.
you.
It'll explode.
Yeah. It's
And the
highly
answer
explosive.
is, this is a horrible question I'm about to ask, but it has to be asked.
Okay.
You talked about staying ahead of the curve and, keeping up with trends. Are you scared yet?
Yeah, we kind of think.
Well,
I have a guess where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Okay.
yeah.
How is AI
There we go.
and 3D printing going to be impacting the work you do or the profession itself?
Specifically AI 3D printing or just AI? in
AI
general?
and 3D
Oh, 3D printing rocks.
Because-
3D
Okay.
printing, and printing's been around, for
For a
a
long
few
time.
years now.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
it's
long
pretty standard. They'll print out your maquettes or things like that.
3D printing in general, or 3D printing with AI?
Well, I think both.
two
are
no,
kind of-
I'm wondering
yeah.
if that was the question.
generate an image
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what-
use 3D printing to
That's what I thought he was saying.
three-dimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on the AI question, it's a delicate topic, and we don't want to bring the room down. But,
Delicate and will also dominate the entire
Yeah.
conversation.
It'll
We-
dominate the whole
We
conversation.
knew this was coming to an extent, and our answer kind of collectively is like, whoa, because it's still up in the air, and no one knows, and we could all devolve into a philosophical context. So we're gonna sidestep the AI question for now.
but
The
Thank
one thing, because I had mentioned, we talked about this earlier, the one thing that I would say, especially to students regarding this in particular issue, we don't know what the future is going to bring. The only thing that you do know at this point in your life is that every moment is very precious. So if you are discouraged by AI and you don't work on your foundation, if you don't work on your drawing, your painting, your ability to ideate, you're robbing yourself.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Just keep moving forward, keep following your dreams, because we don't know what the future is going to bring.
Keep flexing the imagination
Yeah.
muscle.
Keep
Yeah.
soldiering forward, basically. Yeah.
Another question? We got lots over here.
We need the
Can
cube.
we get the
Oh, he already has the cube.
Oh, he's already
Yeah,
got
they already handed
Oh,
it to
you're
you,
already
sorry.
set.
All
It's
right.
In
all
the
right.
cube.
What would you guys say to like a younger version of yourselves, or to a designer who's about to start their first like gig at a studio as a designer?
That's a great question.
Calm down.
Jared's very angry.
Chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just calm down.
No, I mean,
it's
I don't
valid.
think I didn't follow this at all, but it is something I would tell any young artist is film, games, whatever you are interested in is a collaborative effort. You are going to be working with a team, not just on this project, but probably every project for the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times some of the people on this stage here have gotten work for me, we've been able to work together on things, and it's because we enjoy each other's company and also trust each other's abilities.
Yeah.
So just get out of your own way and be a team player. Be the best version of yourself that you can be for the production that you're on, I think would be.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah. I think any one of us would probably be like, because you gotta shelve the ego.
You gotta
know,
shelve.
and
Well, you got to be easy to work with. You
Yeah.
got to be able to talk to people.
Yeah.
You got to be
Yeah.
able to, especially if it's your first job. I mean, your team is there. These are just established artists all around you. And yeah, dude, calm down. You're going to be nervous. That's what I was saying earlier. It was like my first assignment. I had to go to Jared. I'm like, I don't know how to paint blue fire coming out of this tiger. Like how do I light in Photoshop?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of stuff, and that's how you learn.
I've, my position now, I'm very lucky in that I get to actually work with other artists and kind of help bring their work to the forefront as well. One of the best parts about that is, for so long, I think all of us probably feel this way, is you're putting your effort into the thing you're working on. You want it to be picked, right? You want your design to be picked, or at least be in the running, something liked about it. One of my favorite things that like my job has evolved into is I get to let that side go a little bit and be like, Jerad did this incredible creature for this thing. I want to show that. I want you to pick this because it's really, really cool. And here's 5 other things that he did for this one version. And to actually like get to work with people on not just like in the trenches, but also then like champion their work on that level is something that's like, I think it's a learned skill. It's hard sometimes to
Yeah.
You're like, look at this cool stuff. Look at
yeah,
this,
like to just enjoy the entire team's work.
because that
as
makes
well.
you look good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look who I got.
Yeah.
Very
All
cool.
right.
If I were to answer that question as far as like what would I've said to myself younger, I didn't actually know practical effects houses even existed. Even when I first when I met Rick Baker, I didn't know what he had done. And
It's like he's
so
a baker?
and so that's what I would say. Even though once I got into practical effects, I was a sponge and I did learn. But then, I had met him early on, and I didn't know who Rick Baker was. So I would have just studied a little bit more and about practical effects. But I was young.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only other thing is that your education just never stops.
It never stops. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are young and you're doing, your first job, it's important to realize that not only is it your opportunity to shine, but it's also an opportunity to learn from real pros. The coolest thing I came to realize as I got on more and bigger projects was that every time I walked into the room, I actually had a lot in common with everybody there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a similar journey. So there's no, essentially every time you walk into an art department, if they're not your friends, they easily can be. You know, you just have, so much in common.
Yeah.
You can learn so much from them. Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Matt, what's your advice to your younger self?
Oh, I already said.
Oh, you already said
Yeah,
it.
you good.
Okay, good.
All right,
Yeah,
another-
absorb that.
Sure. Hello. I have a question for creature design. Is in you guys could go through each one real quickly, but what is the number one thing where if you look at a creature design, you're like, I hate it when people make this mistake because it is basically like breaking the number one rule for me, and you go forward implementing that into your design. Do you have any? Oh God, they broke the number one rule in their creature design.
Yeah, I mean, there are quirks. There are things that annoy me, but I think the most valuable thing I ever learned was like, who cares what I think?
Yeah.
Everybody's tastes are so different. I hate a lot of plates on creatures. I've had to do a lot of plates on creatures. So
You're talking about like hard, like segments.
Dinner
or,
plates.
yeah,
Yeah.
like just the pillabug thing or the
Yeah.
crustacean thing. That always seems lazy to me, but who cares? The client wants plates. Make plates cool.
Yeah.
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 Constantine has a spike rule that's really
What's
fun.
the spike rule?
It's just spiky things on practical stuff. They always kind of
wiggle.
Yeah, they wiggle. It was just a
Oh,
pet,
because
a
it's
pet
foam
peeve of-
latex.
Yeah, it's just like, oh man. And
Yeah.
I was talking to another creature designer. I'm not gonna name who, and he was asking me about the design, and I had seen it because we were building it at a studio, and he was asking me about it, and he's like, yeah, how's it looking? I'm like, oh man, the spikes, man, it's just wiggling all over the place. So yeah, that was my pet peeve.
Because on a practical suit,
Yeah.
it's going to be made of foam latex, and foam latex doesn't have the weight
No.
to
Yeah.
it, so it kind of jiggles, and the jiggle is what gives away the.
There's a
the
sweet
sponge
spot.
cake.
Yeah,
Sponge
there's
cake.
a sweet
Yeah.
spot where they don't shake like that, and they went like way beyond that, and you're like, oh, that's too much. Yeah.
I do think one thing that's been overdone at this point is the troll face from Lord of the Rings.
Man.
Yeah.
Like we've all seen that troll face, and they use it a lot, and they all go for it. So
To add to that, the spit.
yeah,
The spit in the lens is something that always bugs me. See it too much. Sorry.
because it blocks the creature, and that's what we're there for.
It's just always used.
Matt, is there something that like jumps out at you?
Not that's like beaming in my brain space right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys said some good ones.
Yeah. Spikes, though. I remember the spikes.
That's the winner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More questions? Where's the button?
Right here.
Also, if you wouldn't mind standing up, so we could like
Oh, that makes
direct.
sense.
That would be
Yeah,
much
so you can
easier.
see it all.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
I have a question that is more like inspires your creativity more so. Has anything non-organic inspired you to make implement that into an organic design? And was it successful? Was it not? Have you learned anything from that experience? And yeah, just I guess the finding inspiration outside of organic material in order to make a character.
Oh yeah.
Besides like mecha, of course.
Yeah, I mean, there's shape language everywhere, all around you, man. Like, turn a chair upside down, you're like, oh, that's kind of weird looking.
It's kind of a
That could-
monster. It looks like a monster.
You could turn into, I mean,
Look at hardware tools. Like
Yeah.
if you look at like a wrench, you're like, that kind of looks like a little monster.
Everything. I look at everything. I mean, I can even look at a splotch on the floor, and I'm like, oh, that
Yeah.
could be a creature.
yeah.
It's all you're always chasing that silhouette. You're like, what hasn't been done or what is different, Yeah, and everything. It's interesting on Avatar. We were watching all these documentaries on sea life and everything, and it's amazing how when you look at different mouths from different creatures, and some of it looks almost like machined. And you're like, wow, that almost looks like it was done in a factory. And you're like, that's an organic
Yeah.
creature. And so life does have, if you pay attention to and how it works, You know, you look at a snake and it has these pits in its mouth, and you're like, freaking, that's amazing. You know, how can I utilize that? But to utilize that in a way where you understand why they have it, and then to take that and do it into your own way. But now you have something relatable. I don't know if that really answers your question. It was inspiring.
The mechanics of nature.
Yeah.
Inspiring you.
I always think it's interesting to see, like, say, a car, vehicle, whatever, and you just instantly look at it, you're like, that feels aggressive. That feels friendly. That and like, why does a car feel cute? Like, what works for that? And to kind of dissect the mechanical nature of it and realize, like, oh, it's these softer shapes or these bigger, whatever, headlights, or the grill forming into kind of a smilier kind of shape.
The word for that is pareidolia. Where you like, you look at a faucet and you're like, there's a little face in that faucet.
There's a dude there.
The effect of looking at something and then trying to personify it a little bit.
We have that coat hanger, and there's a meme that went around for a while about the drunk octopus wants to fight. We have that exact little towel rack hanger.
Yeah, pareidolia.
It does look like a little drunk octopus.
Yeah. Jared?
Well, I mean, it makes me think of another friend of ours, Neville Page. He's very good at that. He's very good at taking things, because I believe he has a product background.
I was going to say, I think he comes from like an industrial design kind of background.
So Neville's work, and I love Neville's work, comes out of like left field sometimes, because he's pulling from not nature, and he's making it work. So it is really interesting how a different background, has an effect on creature design. Neville's probably the best example that I can think of.
More questions?
All right. What tools or software do you find the most essential in your creature design workflow?
I mean,
all of us would probably say Keyshot.
Yeah, I keep.
ZBrush.
I was going to say, I feel like software-wise, ZBrush would probably be, and a notebook and a pencil.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, solar flare happens. We all lose our technology. And someone wants you to draw something until they get it fixed up. Like, you can still get your idea across.
ZBrush.
It's the quickest thing. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, ZBrush became an industry standard. While I was just starting out, so I've never seen anything take hold like that and stay. Like that thing's nuts. Like, it is digital clay, and my background is sculpture, and I just remember how artistically friendly that program was, even in the beginning, when it was very limited compared to what it is now.
Matt, you're versatile in like multiple softwares.
Yeah, well, I guess, creature design, right? If you're going into production, Substance Painter is going to be the easiest and most verbose option. You've got Mari for the heavy lifting. If you want to really get into those 800 UDIMs on your dragon for Game of Thrones or whatever, but man. Also, Nomad, the Nomad app on
it's
the
awesome.
iPad, dude. I mean, you can just that thing is. The last 6 months, I've just been noodling in there, and you can just sit down on your couch. You can go to a cafe, you can do whatever, and you're like, I'm just gonna bang something out, and then you're like, oh, I can send this over to my my machine and just finish it up in ZBrush. So
has mobile work kind of seeped
I would like for
into
it
the
to
process?
do more. I just started playing with Nomad, and I was so impressed by it.
It's
just
awesome.
like Procreate, like
It's
playing with
awesome.
that program, like it does stuff that Photoshop has had years to do, and I feel like Procreate does it so much better. It just needs to be able to handle a little bit more stuff.
Just give me a little bit
and I
of
feel like-
tweakability.
Yeah, I feel like Nomad's going to be that for me, where I'm like, cool, I can just do it here. Oh no, I have to go to the computer.
yeah,
It's revolutionized couch doodling for me. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. More questions. More questions.
Yo, can you guys hear me?
Sorry.
Yeah. A little closer?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Hi, big fan of all you guys' work.
Hello.
You guys mentioned a little bit about trends that we've kind of seen a lot before, and I know you guys kind of have to like fight that with directors and whatnot. Are there any newer ideas that maybe we haven't seen a lot of that you'd like to see more of? I think anecdotally, the jean jacket in Nope was kind of like, for me as a moviegoer, was like, wow, I haven't seen anything like this before. Are there any ideas that you guys have that like, oh, I wish this could be in a movie because we haven't seen that before? Just curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I would say one thing, like, just in general, don't think of it as fighting against the director. You're working with them. You want to, come to something that everyone's going to be happy with. Because if you fight to push your wild idea that you have a passion for too much, you could be off the project.
Yeah, you're
So,
not solving the problem.
Yeah. So you may want to, I think we all have the instinct to push things to a place where we're like, this is unique and different and weird, or this is elegant in a way that I haven't seen really done before. And sometimes that's not where they want to go. So you have to be able to just like let go of those kind of ideas for certain projects.
Yeah.
But every so often something will come up where you get to do something.
You're not just working for the director as well. You're working for producers, writers, visual effects supervisors, toy marketing, studio heads and boards of directors. Big, sometimes massive corporations that are funding these things, and you have a lot of people to please. And the more people you have to please, sometimes the simpler things become. And this is kind of where we've all experienced the whittling down kind of stage. And that's where the blue sky stuff comes in, is like, because you have to push as a designer, and they all tell us, something we've never seen before, right? That's usually the first words out of their mouth is something we've never seen before, and to a point where it's even a trope with them. They're like, okay, and then something we've never seen before, so even they know, and they might start off with the intent of like, let's push, right? And then they see it and they go, well, I don't know what I'm looking at, and that's where this fine line happens, and this is often where like design gets muted down. I think to your question of like what we would like to push, there are some wild designs that make it, but they're not American made. It seems like Hollywood really needs very simple designs, and sometimes you're the instinct to like I want to push sometimes butts up against how many people have to say yes.
It depends on the project. If it calls for that, I think sometimes in the past what's happened is you get a really push design, you're like, oh, I've never seen that before, but then you don't relate to it. Sometimes, so I think that's the thing, is that as an audience member, you're watching a film, and if something is that sort of pushed, and it draws you out of the film versus it blending and you're staying in.
If you're focusing on the design, you're not focusing on the story.
It can be hard to get a design approved that doesn't have eyes for that reason. You could do something that you think is really cool, and it's like, the only thing I can remember is the xenomorph. But like, if the director sometimes could say, I really need to be able to emote to this thing.
Emote for sure.
But there are projects where you get to do something like where you get to do something that's like, whoa, this is so weird and strange.
It's rare, though.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that rarity comes down to budget sometimes. Like a low budget movie, they got to go with easy things. Like vampire fangs are much easier than a creature you've never seen before that has to be rigged, animated by a team of 1,000 people. So a lot of it is butting up against budget, time constraints, all kinds of things. That can determine how a design ends up.
And it's kind of like what Marantz was mentioning earlier. It comes down to if there's VFX or is it practical. And you'll get a really cool job. You'll just be like, boom, check this out. They're like, yo, that's really cool, but we can't do that in makeup, unfortunately. So
if it's practical, if it's practical, a person has to wear that.
Back in the day, I mean, you look at the Alien Queen. And that thing is a wild design if you think about how do you shoot that. And the only reason it could be done practical is because in older days, they would lock camera and say, this is how we're going to shoot this thing. So you don't see the rod puppet. So you don't see this and this. Movies have changed a lot because of digital. So now a lot of times it's like they want to do something practical, but the expense and just the commitment can sometimes be just not really an option because there's rapid fire.
Yeah. I think just to jump a little bit off of what everyone is saying here, just a comment really quickly. I think we all have similar backgrounds, and a lot of what we also do is problem solving. It is very technical. It's one thing. That's why you see a lot of the T poses, because that resonates with a whole team. That they can see everything turn around, and then we all want to do that exciting shot and pose it in dramatic lighting, but then to have everyone sign off of it, you have to solve all these problems. And that's, I think, what's a little bit, sometimes it gets a little bit lost, is we're all artists and we sculpt and design and sketch and all that, but it's also forgotten that we are technicians and we have to problem solving. We're problem solving every time we sit and a line work, a shape, all of that. So it's a big part of it, and solving that problem of, like you said, budget. Because you can do anything you kind of want in digital these days, but it's getting those projects where, like, hey, we're coming to you because of your background and makeup effects. We're going to be doing this practically. We're going to be maybe a hybrid of practical meets digital. So it's all project based.
On the problem solving, I'll add personality as well, because sometimes I've been a therapist for some directors who are I don't know, and you're like, well, let's walk it through it. So sometimes you're a little bit of the caretaker as well.
That could be where, like, beyond just the clinical stuff that we have to do, having those shots like you were mentioning, like, comped into the scene, or a rough version of the scene can be the thing that actually puts them at ease. They're like, I get it, it works. Cool. Let's move on.
We can see it. More questions.
Hi.
More questions.
Hello. My name's Abby. Hi, guys.
Hello. She has the box.
So I'm about to graduate this semester with animation and VFX, but I'm not really into animation. I realized I fell in love with 3D modeling. We only had like 2 classes, so very bare minimum basics of modeling stuff. Being that I'm gonna have student loans and California is expensive, is there any books or resources or classes that you guys recommend for me to, like, further my knowledge besides, like, YouTube, like anything specific for that?
Further your knowledge of modeling?
Yeah, 3D modeling.
I mean, just because you're done with main school doesn't mean that you're done learning. Like, you take a class right here in this wonderful school here. There are smaller classes you can take that are focused on a software or this. I would say don't discount YouTube for something so technical. If you're looking at, like, I don't understand how topology works, you're going to save a lot of time by watching a bunch of great people on YouTube or taking an online class or something rather than
Max Dion help you with that one for sure.
The old, is it still called Z Classroom?
I think it's still around.
Yeah, you can go through all of those and learn ZBrush in and out.
Yeah, they're in the help tab in ZBrush. You go to Z Classroom, and they're like 5-minute bite-sized segments of, like, everything in ZBrush. So I mean, that's always a good place to start.
I have to confess, that's where I started. I didn't know the verbiage for ZBrush, and I started literally YouTube and online.
So you mentioned coming from animation and not really liking it. Like, I don't think any of us, okay, maybe you, but I don't think any of us exactly started like, this is what I'm gonna do, and then move forward. Like, your job changes and evolves, and all the skills you learned in animation are gonna still benefit you on this next stage that you're going into.
And those skills will be helpful as well. Like, when you want to, like, take your models further as well. So it's like, I wish I knew how to animate, proper animate and rig and all that stuff.
You're gonna have that one up on people. When you're like, here's my design. He's gonna, do a little dance for you. Like, oh wow, okay, I like that one.
But you're right. Like, you're gonna keep learning. Like, it's never gonna stop. You have 2 hurdles One is the software, the technical side, and then the other is art fundamentals.
Yep.
And those two things side by side, you're just going to be jumping for the rest of your life because there's always going to be new software, new things to learn. It's never going to stop. And that's good, essentially. It's like, here's a vocation that like keeps you hungry for learning. Like, it's kind of beautiful in that way.
Yeah.
I've always found jumping into a project that I have no business starting can sometimes be beneficial.
Yeah.
Like not going to well, I want to learn to model, so I'm going to make a cube and extrude this. Like back when I was a young kid, like going, I want to make a character and I want to learn how to rig it. And like, by my end, it was a mess. Like it was a disaster, but I learned so much in that disaster.
Yeah.
Bite off a little more than you can chew
Yeah.
sometimes. And to add to that, I would add in the fundamental kind of side, like learn clay. Learn how to sculpt in clay. Because if you can think in clay, you can definitely think in 3D. Because the process is very, very similar. Topology is topology, but like form is way more essential,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. More questions? We got
Whoever
a lot.
has the
So
box,
many.
really.
Who's got the box?
Who's got
Over
the
here.
box?
Where's the box?
The cube.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to ask, is there a creature that you have designed that you'd love to see come to life, regardless of how disastrous it may be?
Oh, you mean like actually
In the
come to
real
life?
world.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'd go with Ted from Werewolf by Night. He seems like a cool dude.
yeah.
There you go. I'll pick Elliot from Pete's Dragon just because it's a little more sweet.
Yeah,
so
that will.
he's huggable at least.
Where the wild things are.
Maybe Pikachu.
Pikachu?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Pikachu.
Hang out with
Yeah,
Pika.
yeah.
It would be absolutely terrible if anything I did.
Yeah,
Jared's the one.
You would be
Yeah.
the harbinger of all our destruction.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
no. No, for the sake of everyone, no.
Nobody does evil like Jared.
Yeah, I keep getting those. I don't know.
He's a nice guy, I
He's
swear.
the nicest guy,
I-
but just
Just a little evil.
yeah.
I try. Yeah.
More?
Hey,
Any more?
can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm back here. If you see me waving my hand.
Yeah.
The hand.
Hey.
There's the hand.
Hi, Matt. I went to school with you. I hope you're doing well.
Hello.
Huh?
I just said hello.
Oh, hello. So my question is, what would be your advice for somebody who kind of went astray with their career, where they just followed jobs and then ended up learning a whole bunch of stuff but don't have like a very finite portfolio of like what you want to do? Because that happened to me where I ended up working for so many places that I don't feel like I have what's necessary to get a job competitively now, even though I've been working on lots of things.
Okay.
What do you like doing?
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, creature stuff is why I'm here.
Yeah,
And what I
So-
ended up getting hired for a lot of the time was like lighting, modeling, and I've done creatures, but mostly for like scientific things because I did a lot of accurate animals.
That's
but,
cool.
I don't
gonna
have
help you.
anything that's like spectacular looking as far as like a dragon or whatever
Well,
that people tend to look for when they're hiring, you know, like the people who are hiring managers, oftentimes they're looking at something that is more just, I guess, fancy looking, not necessarily technically correct.
Well, I mean, it sounds like if you don't have what you want in your portfolio, you make it. You know, like
Yeah.
you do the weekends, you do the after work, you do the early morning, you get the iPad, you can sketch for 2 hours, get your ideas out. It's about the grind, man.
Yeah,
It's 100%
You will
boots on the ground.
most likely never get hired to do something that you can't prove you can do. So yeah, that's your job now. So make money, obviously, but yeah, nights and weekends, look at the gaps in your portfolio and just start checking them off. Yeah.
I can share a story. Many years ago, I was working at Sony on a project, and I was working with a director I really highly respected, and was a great guy. And he hired me for creature and character, and that kind of we went through all that work within 2.5 months. And he wanted to do keyframe art, not take the characters and put them into environments. And so I did exactly what Matt said. I worked after hours, weekends, built my portfolio, showcased him. I did some keyframes, like 3 or 4 pieces, went in, and yeah, that started just exploring that. So like Jerad said, if you can't prove it, they won't hire you. So whatever it is that you want to do, just focus on that, build your portfolio, so that way then on your next job, you're like, hey, not only can I do this, but look at this other stuff I can do as well.
Production,
I hope
yeah.
that helps. Sorry.
Production, that's exactly right. Productions are, if you think about almost any movie you see, very few are Avatar with 1,000 creatures running around. in it. Most of them might have 1 creature in it.
Yep.
Maybe you get a Godzilla and a Kong and a couple cool guys running around, but usually there's 1 or 2 creatures in it, and there's a lot of other stuff you got to do. Keyframes are a great one you can do with creatures, because if you're focusing on those, put them in scenes, tell that story with them. That's going to keep you employed a lot longer than just saying, like, I can make a really cool, like, prosthetic or something like that. Like, okay, I can do that, but I can also do costume. I can also put them into context of a whole story. I can do pitch art, all of that.
I think it's okay to wear a lot of different hats and do a lot of different things, especially because in this day and age, it's good to be versatile. And if you can do more, the more things you can do, the more valuable you can be to that production. So, kind of like what he was saying, is fill in the gaps. And if there's something you really want to be doing, you got to go full force and push yourself into that direction, because no one's going to give you that opportunity. Unfortunately, it is kind of like a proof of purchase, because they're essentially kind of taking a risk. Hiring, even if you have the proof, sometimes they're just not sure of it, and they're like, "Can you really do this?" And you're like, no, I swear. But sometimes they just have to see it to know that they can do it. So it's like you can tell them, "Yeah, I can do all the things under the sun," but do you have examples? They're always going to want examples.
Yeah.
More questions?
Yeah.
We've got a few minutes left.
The cube. Where's
The cube.
The cube?
The power of the cube.
Power of the cube.
Hello, I actually have 2 questions, if that's okay.
2?
Yeah, so first, kind of add on to this last question, but I'm a developing artist going to school for VFX and 3D, and I want to become a creature artist like you guys are. So, what's your advice? What jobs should I pick up, and what careers should I pursue in order to become like you guys are and creature designers, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna do. So it is kind of a compounded answer. Like it's very competitive, and that is something to be aware of, and that should drive you. It really should, because you have to really put the work in. Meaning, if you're an animation student graduating, you're going to be animating to pay the bills, and then you're also going to be making creatures on the side, and hopefully maybe animating those. I mean, it's a constant grind. It takes. But, I mean, if you have your skill, do it. Do your 3D modeling. Do the hard surface work, Go into the lighting job. Meet those people. Learn from the creature guys there. Maybe learn from the illustrators. Talk. Be friends. Network. That's how it works. You just got to have the extra push, like the nights, the weekends, all that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the amount of time that you actually have to invest to work regularly. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like my 20s, it was, I don't want to, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say like 18 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep.
Like it was nuts. And, I think we all have a similar story there. So it's a lot of time, but, your foot's through the door with the animation, the other skills. Pay your bills and drink a lot of coffee.
If you're interested in creature stuff, I think getting your foot in the door of a shop, be it practical or digital, and just whatever your skill set is that gets your foot in the door, make sure that you express that I would like to do concept. I know for myself, and I'm sure for everybody probably, like when I was working at Legacy, I started off as I did design, but I also could model. So that was a big part of it. As I could give them the concept and then turn it around, and they could do a 3D print or a mill of it and get it onto set in a week. I didn't really love doing the modeling stage of it, but I could do it. I'd been doing it for a long time. I could do it pretty well. So I had to keep telling them, I would like to do more design. I would like to do more design. And then finally they said, great, we have a commercial coming up. We need designs on Monday. This is Friday at 5. And so I worked all weekend to do as much as I possibly could to show design, not to show the modeling stage, but just ideas and iteration. And came in on Monday with a whole bunch of stuff, which then made them say, okay, next time, hey, we got the designs. Ian, do you want to do something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to prove to them, you have to show that passion, you have to have a value to even be there in the first place, but then learn, absorb, and show what you can do.
I would also add, specifically on the creature side of things, anatomy. Anatomy. Human anatomy, animal anatomy. Learn it, love it, live it, because if you like creatures, you're going to be adapting a lot of anatomy and really honing in and studying it. So obsess over anatomy for sure.
Yeah. Study life.
Yeah, life.
Yeah, I mean,
pets are a great way, you know. Like,
They really are, man.
Yeah.
We all start emulating and being inspired by other creature designers, but then at some point you reach a point where in your career, after experience and just project after project, you just start studying life and just emulating that as much as possible and learning from that, and then taking that and turning it into whatever you want, you know. So yeah, study life.
Well, I would, to tack on to it, last thing is, for everybody, your portfolio is an incredible tool. Like, you can literally design a book to predict your future, essentially. So every page you put in there should be something that you want to do, and you should be constantly refining it so that when you have the opportunity to present it, it's all there. If you want to do anything, and this sounds dismissive to a degree, but you just have to prove that you can do it first. So build your book, constantly design, and fill those pages, because you do have the skills from this school to get your foot through the door. That's the hardest, one of the hardest parts. And so from that point, you know, keep working on your portfolio and create those opportunities.
Yeah. And don't put anything in your portfolio that you truly don't want to do.
Yep. That's the big one. Yeah. I think we have time for one more question.
Who has the cue?
Who's got the
doom?
Okay.
Thank you all for presenting today. It's really, really great to hear you all talk.
Cool.
Favorite animals?
I love that question.
There we go.
Nice and easy.
Favorite animal.
Favorite animal.
We're going to be here for a few hours. All right. Let's make it cheer.
We did. All right. Favorite animal.
I don't want to answer that one first.
Stingray.
Who's brave? Who's brave?
I like tapirs. You know what tapirs are? Yeah, they got the like little. They're just little goobers. That's why I love them. They're just ridiculous animals. Just chimera together.
The little Tarsier with the giant
Yeah.
eyes.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
those guys.
Bonobo.
That's
probably.
Yeah, those are fun.
They're
I'm going to go with
unsettling.
penguin.
Ooh.
What
We were talking about in the back room. and
Penguins.
Penguins are one of my favorites.
Penguins.
They're adorable. They're
Huggable.
ready for formal events.
Oh yeah, dude.
Easy to sculpt. Smooth.
Boy, I have so many seal snakes.
You have to pick one though.
Yeah.
It's a
seal
stingray.
Stingrays.
Ooh,
That's
nice.
good. It's like an alien.
Actually, yeah. They're weird little mouths and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your favorite animal?
I really love the shark.
Yeah.
Classic.
Very good.
Classic shark.
Nice.
Sorry, that's the wrong answer.
Well, I think that brings us to a close for tonight. I want to thank my panelists here. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Go ahead and give them a round.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
There is
Super cool, man.
There is a raffle going on outside, so make sure if you've got your ticket, we're raffling off some really cool prizes.
Some cool stuff out there.
Some top shelf stuff, including a signed book by me and Matt, Godzilla vs. Kong. Yeah, it'll be very cool. So thank you all, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.